Okay, Virtual Pilots Requiem. Today we're flying the P-47, and just a quick note on the engine management for this. I pretty much fly with the turbo supercharger linked to the throttle the entire flight, and I don't really mess with it. And as for the coolers and shutters, I keep the inner cooler and oil cooler in neutral, and I'll just adjust the outer cowl flaps as required. So I've been looking around trying to find some targets when this guy just blows right past me and goes behind. And then he starts turning to the right. So I reverse and initiate a turn to the left because I'm going to be flying slower, which means my turn radius is going to be smaller. So by turning to the left, this is going to create a one circle fight, which will allow me to point my nose at him before he can point his nose at me. This means I can begin firing much earlier than him and hopefully put him off his own aim or score a couple of hits, which we happen to do in this position, and that causes him to want to disengage and leave the area. So here we can see he's already turning towards me, he's pointed at me, so he knows I'm there, but I don't think he really visually identifies me properly. So at this point he could have performed a lead turn and been able to gain some angles on me pretty quickly. If he decided to go vertical, then I could have done an unloaded extension and get away, depending on how steep up he went. But instead he continues straight. He's probably trying to evaluate what to do based on what I'm doing, and I'm waiting to see what he's going to do. So he's either going to turn right or left, because if he goes vertical I'll just unload and get away. If he's going to go to the right, which he does, then that means I should reverse to the left, because I'm going to be flying slower, and with the slower speed it's going to give me more advantage in a one circle fight. So we're turning nose to nose, so that'll allow me to have a smaller turn radius, which will allow me to get my nose pointed at him first, which we see it ends up doing, and I shoot at him just to help maybe even score some hits or put him off his aim. So that way he doesn't really want to tangle with me anymore if I can get a hit. So luckily I get a hit without getting hit in return, and then he gets away. So then we just pretty much extend away from each other, and I'm pretty happy with that result. So I'm back up patrolling in around about 18,000 feet or so. I did happen to see some targets around this area earlier, so I'm not willing to go below the clouds yet. Just trying to stay above and hopefully catch a glimpse of something that'll give me an opportunity to come down and make a bounce. So here we can see there's 3 airplanes down there. I believe it should be 2 enemies and 1 friendly. So with 1 moving away, it's possible that the remaining 2 are going to be working together. And luckily right now they're flying in a kind of close trail formation, so there's one guy right behind the other. And since I'm positioned over the top, this is a perfect chance to come down and attack both of them in the one pass. So I'm coming down, I'm going to be very close to my maximum airspeed. It's going to be very hard to pull out of this dive as I come underneath. So line up on number 2, fire away, score hits and just go right past him. He's going to break and not going to be a threat. I can focus on number 1 and kill him as well. So now as we punch through the cloud layer, we're going to start running out of airspeed, so we're going to slowly unload over the top and continue on our way. So here we see the 3rd aircraft was a Spitfire trying to get away, and because number 2 is flying in close trail with number 1, he's going to be completely fixated. So this is not a good formation to offer any kind of mutual support for each other, and it pretty much just comes in line with my flight path. So it allows me to come in with a maximum airspeed with a high amount of closure to come in and kill number 2, and then just follow through and kill number 1. And it's literally just over in a matter of seconds, so they made it a much easier approach for me by flying in that close trail formation. So now back up at altitude again, doing the usual patrol, and just continuing the scan. I spotted 1 airplane over near the clouds, so I'm going to have a quick zoom in on it. It looks like a twin, so that's going to be a decent target for me to try and go for, although it is a little bit low. As I roll over to try and get in position, I see another airplane, and that looks like a fighter. So at this point I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. It looks like, judging by the direction the 110 is going, it's better for me to go for him, because then I can go underneath the cloud layer, and hopefully that cloud layer will disguise me from the other 109 nearby. So just to see the positioning, the 110 is underneath me here at the bottom of the screen, and the 109 is over at the 10 o'clock position just up there. So I like to go for the 110 just because it's going to be in the direction of my own lines, and I can hopefully use the cloud layer to hide myself from anyone above. And the other 2 airplanes you see off to the right, they're going to become a factor very soon. So I'm beginning my shallow dive on the 110, generating some closure and reducing that distance, and it's not really happening as fast as I want it to, and the gunner started shooting at me, so I'm going to continue my dive to get a little bit lower. I'm going to try and keep him in a position that keeps me out of the gunner's field of fire. So as the 110 begins a slight dive here, I increase my dive just to keep myself underneath the tail and prevent getting shot at. But this has the effect of increasing my airspeed a lot, so as I start firing and try and pull up, I don't really have the authority to pull up as fast as I want, and that causes me to get hits from the gunner, and I started suffering a fuel leak. I took 100% fuel, I think, so it's not a big deal having the fuel leak right now, and just trying to evaluate if I can come back down or not on this 110, because I have an altitude advantage, but the problem is that if I can't really sustain any kind of a turning fight, and he knows I'm here, so it's going to be very difficult to get any kind of a shot. So he's dropping some bombs, so he's going to be a little bit distracted, so I come down to make my attack, and he just pulls way too tight. I'm not going to burn on my airspeed off trying to keep up with that. So as I look back at the 110, there's another airplane coming towards me, so definitely not a good idea to hang around, so it's time to leave. So right now, I'm pretty much stuck at low altitude with guys coming in behind me, and that's not a good position to be in, so I've started typing in the chat a little bit, trying to give some position reports for where I am and for where these bandits are, and just speeding up the time a little bit to skip through this, as it's just becoming a straight up tail chase. They have the speed advantage, so they are gaining on me. It's just a matter of time until they catch me, and I'm just trying to get the reports as I move along, so hopefully if anyone's in the area they could step in and help out. And right now these guys are chasing me for quite a distance, so I'm going to have to fight them at some point. So he's starting to get a little bit too close to my comfort right now, so I'm going to put the boost on and get ready to fight. As I'm beginning the turn, I'm trying not to do it too hard so I don't bleed off all my airspeed, and I began the turn a little bit too late because you can see I'm not really quite able to get the angles to point my nose at him, so I need to end up reversing here and trying to slow down and force an overshoot by trying to get him into a scissors. So I'm rolling and pulling to get my lift vector on him. He does overshoot, but I think he has a better energy state than me overall here. So here I misjudged my turn circle that I was going to have, so as I begin my turn I don't give myself enough room to completely do a 180 and point my nose at him, so he still has angles on me in my rear hemisphere, so that forces me to have to reverse and slow down and try and force a overshoot out of this bandit. As we roll and point the lift vector on, we do start to see him overshoot, and I do end up behind him, but he does have a better energy state at this point, so it's not likely I'm going to be able to be in a position for a shot. As I'm looping around, I've got the flaps out to about 10 degrees. I try to limit myself to no more than that. So while I am behind him here, I'm not really in a position to press for a shot, because if I try and pull any harder, I'm going to risk stalling and ruining what position I do have right now. So basically I'm just trying to maintain this position behind him and hopefully force a mistake. Starts running out of speed at the top and comes back to the left here, and as I'm getting ready to come back down, I end up getting hit. So here from the perspective, I'm basically padlocked on the 190. As his 109 comes down, he's got a nice unobserved shot against me, and I'm pretty slow coming over the top, so I'm going to be relatively stationary from his point of view, which makes me very easy to hit. And from here, now that I've realised there's a guy behind me, I'm pretty much sandwiched between two bandits, and I know I have around 10 seconds until I get completely destroyed. So my plan is to basically dive, get my airspeed, and then shoot at the 190 briefly, and then the first instance of getting shot at myself, I will bail out. So I'll start the process of bailing out, but unfortunately I didn't have enough altitude, so my pilot goes splat. So the 109 put himself in a nice position after he shot me. Realistically, if I didn't really want to hit the 190, I could have just bailed out and saved my virtual life, but I wanted to at least hit that 190 once, and ended up being too low for the parachute to deploy, so my pilot ended up dying in this instance. So that completes today's debrief. Remember, if you want to have your own multiplayer fights debriefed in this way, you can send me the track with the TACV files and I'll see what I can do with it. But I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to always fly safe and check your 6.